Hello, listeners, and welcome to today's episode of Show Me Your Hustle. I am so excited to be sitting down with Italo. I interviewed you last season on Show Me Your Tech Stack, so I'm excited to dive more into your entrepreneur side. We
Yeah.
talked about your tech stack, your business side, but let's talk about you. What are you working
Okay.
on? What are you doing right now?
Oh man, what a loaded question. Okay, so let me think. Where do I start? Where do I start? So what I'm working on. Okay, so I have a couple businesses. I have Peddle. It's a digital agency, and the point of Peddle is to help empower businesses to leverage technology like HubSpot and AI to achieve financial freedom. And so I
Mhm.
have a vision and a goal, and I think my whole thing is that people are powerful and people can do a lot of amazing things to help each other. So I want to leverage technology to expand those potentials. And so I do it for mostly service businesses and SaaS
Totally.
businesses. So recurring revenue operations. The reason for that is because I'm a very service-driven person. My background's in healthcare, so I started out in healthcare, and my parents are both nurses. Now they're nurse practitioners. My brother's a doctor. I was going to go to med school. I ended up going into tech as like a really lucky opportunity I came across. But you know, we're service people, and so you know, I want to help expand those services. And so when you use technology, you can exponentially increase your potentials. And when the more can be helped, the more money you make, and you have financial freedom. So that's kind of the whole point of Peddle is to empower service businesses, whether you're a SaaS or service or subscription, to expand your potentials leveraging technology. And so
Right.
that's what Peddle does. Now, I also have a logistics trucking company as a passive side investment. I have my best
Mhm.
friend Raphael. I just want to test out some theories on how to leverage technology to like automate income and give people jobs to go on the road, buy trucks. You know, it's like Uber now. Like trucking is like Uber. You can like pick up a load, deliver a load. Everything's kind of like shared economy. And so it's
Right.
like having your own little Uber
Okay.
of like 18 wheelers. So I have that going on. Again, leverage technology, automate that, run it passively.
That's cool.
I'm about to sell that now. It's getting acquired right now, so I'm about to sell that. And then I'm freeing up my time for like my magnum opus. And so my magnum opus is going to be my mother is a nurse practitioner and in psych, and so we've always wanted to fight the mental health battle. It's a big stigma in our community. We're Latino. A lot of people don't believe in it, but a lot of
Yeah.
Latinos still believe in like not to be funny, but like you know
Yeah.
religion or like demons over science and health. So we want to kind of bring this awareness to
Mhm.
the community and also to everyone. We're not just doing a Latino clinic; we're doing a clinic period. But North Carolina is a big healthcare state. That's why we moved here.
Right.
And so I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina
Okay.
now, but I'm from Raleigh, and we're big healthcare, health tech. We have RTP, so we grew up around the healthcare. And again, we're service-based people. And growing up, my mother always had us like I had a single mother, and she came from Argentina with three kids, and well, two. I was born here, but with and so she had a hard time in America, and so she's always very service-based. And growing up, she had a lot of patients she loved and
Yeah.
cared about. So she'd always have us like go take care of those patients over the holidays. We didn't have family or cousins or uncles to go celebrate Christmas with, so
Mhm.
we go to the hospital and see your patients and like try to make people's days better. And so my mom really instilled that from us from a young age. So we've always been community giving people, which is why
Yeah.
my brother's a doctor and there's nurses now. So we're opening a medical practice called Consoling Minds. So we're opening that in Raleigh, North Carolina. We put an offer on the building a month ago. So that hopefully we get the space. We're not sure yet, but it'll be off Six Forks Road in Raleigh. So I'm opening that medical practice to help people. It'll be primary care, so just regular doctor, and also psych.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so you know, so telemed that kind of thing. Because my parents are retiring from the
Oh,
hospital, so we got to the beach
I
condo. They can
love
go
it.
do telemed and relax, but they still want to help the community, in the retirement. So that's our way to give back while building a business and being able to
Yeah.
give people jobs. So that's what I'm working on now, and that's kind of the pivotal point of my whole life. Like I've been in healthcare my whole life, in doctor's offices. I did tech. Now I can use these two things together to help the community. And so we're building that practice, and we're going to have locations physically, but we're also going to have telehealth, like think like Quick ND online app, see your appointment. Because now we're in that economy, like wherever you are in the world, you should be able to like when I wake up in the morning, I sometimes schedule my Uber Eats to be there when I wake up in the morning. So my bagel's ready, food's ready, and I have coffee, and I've given someone a job
Dang.
to start the day. I'm
Yeah.
ready to go. If I need music, I can play my
I
music on
love it.
Spotify. If I need my medicine, I should be able to hop on a call with my doctor and quick MD and consulting minds or you practice like get
Yeah.
medication or if I'm sick, I should be able to telemed in. We're doing this subscription economy, service economy thing with the phone. So I'm trying to empower that into healthcare. And so that's what I'm working on now. And that's kind of, again, my magnum opus.
Dang.
That's the convergence of Peddle. And so I always have Peddle for the digital side to bring that to businesses and my family's history of healthcare. So I'm merging
Hmm.
that now with Consulting Minds. And that's what we're working on.
I love that. What a cool
Thank you.
story.
Thank you.
I have so many thoughts and questions. Um,
Thank you.
what, like, okay, so you touched a little bit on your background and how you got here, but what was your big pivot for being an entrepreneur?
Oh man, that's a
And
great story.
not. Yeah.
That's a
Let's
great
dive
story. That's a good
in.
question. Okay,
Okay.
when you come here as an immigrant in America, you look for a concrete income. So usually it's like doctor, lawyer, engineer, right? So typically, we
Hmm.
didn't know any better. Mom was like, "Hey, doctor." She worked in the hospital. She was a nurse, she's the sort of person who want to help people. It's like I want to help people and do good and feel good about myself and not be evil and I want to make money. So she became a nurse and she told us to be doctors because she thought the most powerful, best thing she saw was a doctor. That's what she thought the pinnacle of success was. A person who helped the community and got paid really well. And so we wanted them doctors. We were going to med school, and so I was studying MCAS. I was pre med. Was a bio major and a psych double major. I minored in entrepreneurship because I always liked to throw parties when I was a kid, and I had a band, so I was like gig in a band, and I would throw parties. I used to like make money on the side hustle. It's
Right.
just who I am. I'm a community
Okay.
person, and so I would always have like little side hustles and side businesses just because I was just like that.
Hmm.
And then but the main thing was helping people and it was medicine. And so,
Yeah.
I was in the pre-med club and I was a senior in college and I was did something called abnormal psychology and they talked about synesthesia. And synesthesia is a
Hmm.
condition where you see multiple colors. And so, it's savants have synesthesia. It's like savant syndrome. Savant syndrome synesthesia very, very attached. So
Okay.
I was really busy. I had a job at a doctor's office, running a doctor's office that would eventually get acquired. That helped my career a lot. And then I was a full-time student. I had a band. I was gigging weekend. I was throwing parties. I was like bartending tea. I had so many jobs and things to do. It was hard for me to go learn
Right.
music to go play with my band on the weekend because I was so busy. And so I had to go play shows and I had
Right.
time to learn the music. So I used my abnormal psychology degree and studies where I was studying abnormal, like savants. Like how do savants, some savants can read a book and have total recall. They can tell you like the word "and" is the 37th word on page 25. They have like perfect recall.
Dang.
And I was like, how do they do that? And so they do it because they use multiple senses, multiple sensories. So like every letter has a color. The same like, when you like smell something, you have a memory. When you hear a song, it takes you back to a time. The more senses you integrate with a memory, the stronger the memory happens, the stronger the memory core. So I took
Okay.
that and I applied color coded guitar strings and colored sheet music. So I made Guitar Hero for real instruments. So like I patented color coded guitar strings and I wrote a software that colors sheet
Okay.
music. So I would go play shows and I would just match the colors and learn how to play like on the fly because I have time to practice before the show. And so I used that
Dang.
to,
Okay.
yeah, so I invented that and got a patent for it. And so I was in school one day and the pre-med club and the entrepreneurship club, all the clubs share email chains and newsletter. And so I got an email from the entrepreneurship club. It was like, do you have a business idea? And I was like, I do. I was like, do you want to make $50,000? I was like, I do. And so I entered the competition and I won it with that invention. So that's kind of how I had my
Yeah.
first business, first product. NC State, I won 50K twice. I won that competition twice, actually, back to back. But the first time I won it, and then I met a bunch of entrepreneurs, and then they sent me to Boston to get a mass challenge, which was the MIT entrepreneur competition there. A lot of Harvard, MIT kids. Jeff Taylor from Monster.com was my coaches.
Right.
Steve Case, the founder of AOL, was my coaches. Bill Warner, the founder of Avatech, he made Pro
Dang.
Tools. He was my coaches. So I got there. I won the office space for a year, and so I placed in the finals there too. Ended up moving to Boston for a year. Got coached by really cool like entrepreneurs of like the .com era in Boston, and they taught me
Okay.
business. And I didn't know before then that like you didn't need a job. Like I just thought like you had to work, you needed a job. It's the only way to make money. They taught me like no, you can build
Yeah.
businesses and do these other things. These guys were like our office was on the Fan Pier building in Boston, the Seaport. Some of these guys would drive their yachts to work
Hmm.
to the office to come coach us. I was like, what do you do? Like, I was in college. Like, what'd you major in school? What do you do? Like, how did you do this? And they were like,
Right.
he was like, yeah,
Right.
I majored in, music, but like I founded Kayak and sold it. Like, that's what I do. Like, so I was like, oh my God, I had no
Right.
clue. There was this other path of entrepreneurship. And they taught that to me, and I was blessed enough for them to, mentor me for a year and coach me, and I learned technology. And I came out to North Carolina and brought that tech to all the businesses I would consult in, all the docs I was moving forward. Came back to North Carolina, started consulting for multiple docs
Mm.
offices. The practice I worked at got acquired. UPM is the biggest OBGYN in the country. One out of three babies in America is delivered by them. I was OBGYN. I was doing
Oh.
billing and revenue cycle there. We got acquired. And so when we got acquired, that was like my claim to fame. And after that, we started consulting for the doctor's offices, and I started using technology to like automate things, streamline things, bring in patients, all that kind of stuff. And that's how it happened.
Right. Right.
And that's where I found
Wow.
HubSpot. And that's how
What
Peddle was
a
born.
what a
Crazy,
story. Like
crazy. I know.
I
I know.
love it. I love
I
it.
know. I know.
Um so with that, you talked a lot about I mean, like you're just a natural entrepreneur. I mean, anyone who knows you or works with you can totally see that. But what is your
Thank you.
what's your hustle from that? Like, excuse me, sorry.
Pleasure.
What books
Mhm.
are you reading? Like, how do you maintain the mental?
Oh man.
It's springtime in Utah, and I'm struggling.
Yes, it's like we
But
call it
yeah,
the
like
pollinating here.
right, the stinky trees here.
Yeah.
Um, so what books are you reading, or you do jitsu? Like, how do you keep your mental stable to maintain
Yeah.
this level of hustle?
Yeah. 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 Man. Yeah, that's like an everyday struggle, but not a struggle, it's like an everyday privilege, honestly. But so okay, so let me start with the books. So my first business failed, even though as amazing a story as it was, that business went on to fail because I had no business experience before that, and so and I didn't know what I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know, and I spent like $100,000 to try to get the product to market, just to realize there was no product market fit because it was too expensive. People were used to paying $5 for
Mm,
guitar strings. Nobody wanted to pay $50 for guitar strings.
yeah.
It was that price, and I learned it the hard way. So when I failed, I was like, oh, I don't know what I don't know. So I started learning from other entrepreneurs and I
Right.
started reading a lot. So the first thing that I found was the Four Steps to the Epiphany by Steve Blank. If you don't know, Steve Blank is
Okay.
the father of like modern entrepreneurship. Before Steve Blank,
Okay.
before the Four Steps to Epiphany, the way businesses are run, rich people started businesses. There was no startups. Startup didn't exist in the 80s and 70s, right? There's no startup. The way business would happen
Right.
is like, let's say Coca-Cola had Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola wanted to create Sprite. What they would do is they would spend millions of dollars on research and development to make a new soda, and they would taste test it with their current audience, and then they would release
Mm,
it, and people liked it. And that's good if you already have a million drinkers and users. Of course, you can like taste test with them,
right.
and then when they like it, then you release it. But if you have $1 million to do
Mm-hmm.
R&D in the first place, you have an R&D team, and you already have an audience. But what if you don't? What if you're
Right.
starting
Right.
from
Right.
nothing? What if you're starting from scratch? How do you do that? And that's why all these businesses and investments would fail in the 60s, 70s, and 80s because the business model was not a business model, it was a product development model. How do you develop new products? It wasn't how to
Mm,
develop new businesses, right? How to solve new problems. So the guy
right.
who invented problem to solution fit is the first thing. Like, what's the problem I'm trying to solve? And then when I solve that problem, I do it as a service, and then I make it a product. Once I've done the service 1,000 times and I know exactly how to do this for people, then I productize it and I do product to market fit. So I'm not doing problem solution, solving
Got
problem for one
it.
person. I'm solving problem for a lot of people. I'm solving problem at scale. I
Mm-hmm.
productize the solution, and now I do it for the whole market. The problem solution fit, product to
Right.
market fit. The guy who invented that was Steve Blank, Stanford professor. He wrote the Four Steps to the Epiphany. He said there's a way to do this. You first do, he's the MVP guy. He built an MVP, minimum viable product. Like, don't spend too much money on it. You don't have $1 million for R&D. Get it there as quickly as possible, right? Do the solution. Solve people, talk to people, get feedback, get customer
Right.
feedback. So it's customer discovery, customer validation, and then customer creation, and then business building. So you do customer discovery. What
Mm,
problem can I solve for you? Customer validation. Okay,
right.
everybody said they want this problem solved. Let's test it out. Let's build a solution, test it out. Okay, now you have customer discovery, customer validation, customer creation. Now that we've validated and they know what they pay for it, let's find more customers, go to market, and figure out how we can create customers, create demand generation, customer creation. Once you've done that, then you
Yeah.
start doing business building. Then you start adding new service lines, new product lines. And that's the 4 steps to the epiphany of how to build a startup. And that's what started the lean startup movement.
Mm,
So he's the lean startup professor, and then he taught the lean startup, and he wrote the startup owner's manual. In the startup owner's manual, he
okay.
had a guy named Eric Ries in his class, and Eric Ries is a big Silicon Valley guy that people know because Eric Ries would take that lesson in that class and apply it to all the Silicon Valley startups that you know about, like Ubers of the world, stuff like that. And then that became he wrote the Lean
Yeah.
Startup, the book. So there's Professor Steve Blank
Okay.
who wrote Four Steps to Epiphany. That was the first one. Then I did the Startup Owner's Manual on how to run a startup. So here's
Mm-hmm.
the 4 steps to finding product market fit. Here's how to do a startup owner's manual. Then his student, his
Mm-hmm.
star student, wrote Lean Startup on how to take that Silicon Valley and put it in tech. Those are 3 books that helped me go from my first failed business to 3, 4 successful ones after that, following that blueprint. Then there's another one called the EOS, the Entrepreneurship
Right.
Operating System, which is a good like operating system for like how to run your day to day and how to like get your team involved and like what's my strength. I'm gonna do my strength and let you do
Mm-hmm.
your strength and stay out of the way. So I'm the blocker. I'm kind of more of a connector kind of thing. So that's
Right.
like the
Right.
next step is how do you solve problems for people, build a business organization, and how do you keep the organization running? That's kind of like my blueprint.
I
Hope that
love
was
it.
helpful.
Okay. Yeah. I was taking notes on that because I'm like, I need to know this. What do you feel like the hardest here's a good one for you. What do you feel
Mm.
like the hardest or most challenging moment of being an entrepreneur has been?
Oh, failure, man. I think that failure, I talk about this a lot. I think that failure is very stigmatized. And I think that when my first company failed,
Hmm.
I'd raised money from friends, family, and investors. And again, it's my first business, and I was pre-med before that. I had no
Yeah.
business. I had no real business experience. I had a band and gigs and paid clubs paid me and like, and I had parties and sold cups at the
Right.
door. Like I didn't have any business experience or organization experience. And so I think that failure is hard when you're a young person and you feel like your world's ending. But I think that failure is not shouldn't be stigmatized. Failure is not the end. It's just like the toll. It's the toll you pay, right? Like you learn from
Right.
your mistakes, and you make these
Hmm.
mistakes and you learn hard lessons because you didn't see them, and somebody had to smack you in the face to let you know that you were doing something that needed to be changed. And so for me,
Right.
I didn't know how to connect the right people. I didn't know how to evaluate people, and I didn't know how to get out of people's way. I did a lot myself, and now I'm the opposite. Now I find the right people, empower them to do things. So that's why like people are like you're so busy. I'm like yeah, but I have a good team, and I let them shine,
Hmm.
and they do their things, and they're happy, and I stay out of the way. I
Yeah.
think that's failure is probably the biggest thing is coping with failure and coping with just uncertainty. You don't know if it's going to work or not. You have to test it. You have to be able to pivot and thinking that you're crazy for having a vision. Like if you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to bring a vision into reality. It doesn't exist right
Right.
now. And so you're the person that sees it
Right.
to be able to paint that vision for other people and be sure in yourself you're going to bring that to life. And sometimes you will fail and it doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means you need to adapt. So I think those are the hardest things to deal with.
Right. With that, how do you motivate others around failure and keep your team shining?
Yeah. So this is a new one for me. This is a new one for me. So I think for me, before, I think, I just tried to lead by example and just try to be, I guess I've always tried to lead by example,
Hmm.
but I think I missed part of this until recently. I think maybe Matt, from your team, as Super is probably the person who's helped me with this a lot is I think that just being more open and telling more of my story has been what's worked the best for me to date. Historically, I've tried to do it just by being really well polished and
Mm.
showing up and like leading by an example of like, hey, it works if you work it kind of thing. And now I'm more so doing it by like
Right.
being open and transparent with my story and what's happened to me so that other people know like, hey, like, the things that you're going through, we all go through. It's not abnormal. There's nothing wrong. It's just part of the process.
Right.
And being vocal about that on social media. So Matt's been a good component for me of like, how do I deal with company culture? How do I build company culture and build trust and relationships with people? And how do I be
Hmm.
open and market and be social about my experiences so people know what they're following. If they're not just following, this looks
Right.
good, they're following my mission and my journey and they hear more of my story. So I think that social media has been a big component of that and just being more vulnerable and being more open. It's been and transparency. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Before, like I said, I just tried to
Right.
do good things, and hopefully they followed. Now I'm just being more transparent.
I
So
love
motivation for
that.
me, I think,
Yeah.
is just helping people know that we understand them and that we all go through the same things. We're all human, kind of thing.
Right. Um, all right. Before we wrap up, any final notes that you want to share on your journey or last key
Um,
advice for listeners?
Let me think. I think that uh, no, I think we kind of covered them all. I think one thing I did miss on like the operating system side, like how do I stay motivated, is I think exercise is a good thing. I think that
Hmm.
finding hobbies outside
Yeah.
of work that are communal, like playing a sport. Like I love jiu-jitsu, I love
Hmm.
weightlifting, I love running. Doing those kind of things, so it's
Yeah.
not always about work, are super
Hmm.
important, but also doing something physical because when you push your body, the same like when you like stretch for goals, you kind of you grow into them. If you always kind of stay
Right.
safe, you kind of stay in this pocket. You have to push yourself, run harder, run further, work harder, compete, and that's how you stretch and you come up to that level. And continuing to do that, doing it by yourself is hard. So it's really easy when you do a team game with other people because then
Hmm.
they hold you accountable and they lift you up. It's really hard to be motivated by yourself in the gym just to
Right.
lift weights every day as a bodybuilder. It's really easy to be on a football team and be like, oh, we're going together. Like so, being communal with
Right.
that is probably the biggest thing.
I love that. Well, Italo, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for
I
having me.
just love watching you soar and just so excited to keep watching. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. I hope I didn't ramble too much. Thank you.
No,